If you thought my self-made magic system was a bridge off to Neverland, let me tell you something, son. The crazy train's not even left the station yet. I'd say this is one of my strangest videos ever, but that's only true from a behind-the-scenes point of view. You see, this has been a wild and strange roller coaster of a ride for me. It started off as a short blurb of a theory of how all fictional settings could be compacted into a Unitarian Omniverse. That soon blew up into a 10-page essay on the fundamental nature and structure of reality, which then became a 3-part miniseries overlaying the two concepts. Then it deflated again into one neatly synoptic cosmology theory under the same banner, and now it's become a new full-blown series along the mech design, mech tech, or Project Outlander lines, as well as a whole new associated book, which itself is a rollover of a previously started and stalled project called The Tao of Grimdark. Not sure if I'll keep that title or not. If anyone has any suggestions, leave them below. But before this video's plot gets any more lost than it already is, I suppose I should probably tell you the gist of my theory. The only problem is where to start. Well, after about a dozen rewrites and countless revisions, plugging and unplugging elements, playing with the format, I've finally decided to just let my illustrative talents do the bulk of the heavy lifting for me once again. If you follow me on X, or if you're a member of the Discord, both of which will be linked in the description, then you'll have already seen variations of the on-screen diagrams before. To directly quote myself from a recent Discord convo summing up the subject's earliest concept. My original thesis is based on Lovecraft's cosmology for his mythos. I couldn't find an original image, so I made one myself. And in the process, I started imagining where every other fictional verse would lie on its infinite surface, and the rest sort of took off from there. But yes, every layer, including the void, is infinite in size, has existed forever, and has infinitely many dimensions. In simplest terms, I noticed that the plurality of other worlds could be grouped into one of 4 general boxes that you can view on screen at your leisure based on their internal mechanics and the prevalence of material versus immaterial forces therein. While on the macro scale, the Omniverse can be drawn into many different cuts, or realms as I've chosen to call them. Furthermore, causality bleeding over between these reality spheres is where all the phenomenological creation emerges, be it in the form of magic, souls, physics, cosmic orders, and hierarchies, etc. Now, before we go any further, I must reiterate that this is a theory of fiction only, though there are, of course, ways you could conceivably argue that our own reality also falls into its umbrella. Such endeavors would be wildly speculative at the very best. I can't and won't tell you what to believe, but know that it's not my intent or interest to promote any kind of pseudoscientific gobbledygook. This is the mother of all fanfictions, nothing more. Also, so long as we're disclaiming things, as this is an extension of an older work of mine where I postulate that the warp is the 40K universe's singularity. That is, that the world of 40K is, in truth, nothing more than a cosmological crust riding on a sphere of extracosmic energy. I've linked that video down in the description if you want more clarity of where precisely I'm coming from with this. Next on the old docket, it is at this point that I must explain to you the fundamental epiphanies I had while trying to work out how to formulate this whole cacophonic orchestral number into meaningful English. 1. All patterns are fractally nested. As above, so below. As within, so without. As the soul, so the universe. This one will become extremely important towards the end. And 2, there are no extra spatial dimensions. A dimension is a direction in space, but space and time are relative. Space is the relative frequency of objects, time is the relative frequency of events. Therefore, a higher dimension is actually just a higher frequency in time, not an alternative direction in space. Many of which are so high, or low, that we can't perceive or engage meaningfully with them. Much like how we can't see subatomic particles since the wavelengths of visible light are too long to interact with them. To now delve more deeply into the first perceptual concept. Chaos pulses in the heart of order. Order rests within chaos's writhing belly. Nothing is ever static. All is eternally in flux. As above, so below. And all this sits within the purview of the infinitely expanding omni-animo, the all-mind, alternately known as the Great Gate, the Source, the Singularity, the Overmind, the Final Frontier, and so on, and so on. All of these titles belie the same sinister reality, that all of this so-called expanse is in fact the infinitely dense delusion, or holographic projection, if you'd prefer a more science-y take, of the one above all. In essence, nothing is true, everything is permitted, all is one, and everything is nothing. Just as how it is in Neverland or Wonderland or Narnia, the whole infinitely expansive tapestry of imagination is now, and has always been, nothing more than a vaguely categorical simulacrum of a soul derived from that singular great unconsciousness, who, were it ever to become aware of itself, and from this begin to derive a singular sense of purpose and meaning, would instantly and irreversibly destroy all it had created, and thus entails the great omniversal creation cycle. In the beginning, so to speak, God saw his reflection, and through knowing himself, he went irretrievably mad. Wanting release, he plunged into a stupor so deep that he caused his very soul to collapse and sunder. The churning cauldron of irreconcilable absolutes that resulted clashed and battled for eons uncountable, until amongst all the eddies, between the warp and weft of the evanescent froth, were born the All-Father's infinite offspring, the children of the mad god, the Overmonitor, the Supreme Being, chaos breeding through sheer random luck, pockets of orderly rhythms. Patterns emerged, and from these arose newer, more complex melodies, whose interplay grew harmonics that grew into songs, and, in some infinitesimally rare instances, sometimes grouped up to form vast cosmological operas. But these jewels, no matter how bright, how brilliant, how exquisite, were always but fleeting fits of the cosmic breeze. None could weather the infinite enmity the Overmind's mad dance has bred and continues to breed. And so, forthwith, rode the entropic void, the great enemy, the scourge of all creation, the reaver of souls, the devourer of worlds. But still, for all the inevitability of their plight, no matter how dark the night or how abyssal the deep into which the mind's imaginary candle was plunged, a spiteful flicker, a fitful spark, a baleful ember of its incoagulable flame always endured. All right, you might well be saying, that's all very grand and poetic, but so far it all just sounds like every creation myth I've ever heard or read about, so what makes your idea so big and special? Well, the reason I titled it The Tao, or Way of Grimdark, is because in this ultimate shared reality, we've essentially created the cosmic version of Am from I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. In essence, God hates and dreads his lonely existence and wants it to end. But he can't will himself to cease existing any more than he could will himself into being in the first place. So he retreats into the soul place where he can have company. He splits himself into infinitely many slices to entertain himself. We exist solely as a means to keep him sane, or more accurately, to keep him amused. Forever. Now, I know this has all been a lot, but now hopefully you can see what I meant when I said this thing was an Encyclopedia Omnia. So, rather than my dump out 10,000 volumes of it on you in one sitting, I think I'll just let you mull over the basics presented here for now, and give each point its own special treatment later on. If that's something you'd want to see, you know how to make that opinion known. And while you're there, consider also leaving me a tip, or becoming a channel member for early access to all videos, as well as some more specialty perks. Or if you're in the mood for some more worldly fantasy, then also consider checking out my books on Amazon. All links will be in the description. And as always, until next time, stay safe, stay sane, and remember, the only stupid ideas are the ones that don't work. Peace out.